Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Commissioner Houseman and I were at a previous engagement honoring Dominique Wilkins, and the program went long. But despite the fact that we are a little bit behind schedule, this is still a very, very important event. And earlier today, I was speaking to the swearing-in ceremony for Kenneth Herman, and I said the following words: "This is a great day in Fulton County." We got off the year 2015 with a great start with a new commission, and certainly pleased to be here with two of my colleagues, Commissioner Vice Chair Houseman, Liz Houseman, and Commissioner Lee Morris. And this is part of what you're seeing as a team that's more collegial and more determined to do the best that we can provide in terms of governance and support and oversight and leadership for this great county of ours that's called Fulton County. So not only did we get off to a great start in terms of the board working together, in terms of a budget, having a strong fund balance, but one of the things that we did well was go through the process of recruiting what we think is a top-notch manager for our county, Richard Dick Anderson. We vetted, reviewed candidates, and when Dick came before us, he stood head and shoulders, not only because of his wonderful credentials, AT&T, Federal Reserve Bank, his community work with the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Clark Atlanta University, but more importantly, how he spoke to the needs of our county and how he would work with the board to usher us into a new era of excellence. So I'm very pleased that he's with us, and Vice Chair Liz Houseman, who was a part of the process. She's going to give remarks before we bring on before you our new county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo all of the comments that he just made, and I share in the excitement that I think our new county manager gives us all and brings us hopefully to a new level. To you that are here today, our department heads, and to the employees that may be listening, I want you to know that we are unanimous in our support of our new county manager. We feel like he brings so much to our county with his deep corporate experience, government management experience, contacts throughout our region, former chairman of the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, work with our transportation system through Greta, and a host of other things. If you have not had the opportunity to review his extensive resume, I encourage you to do so. But more than that, he is a Fulton County resident, and he is here because he wants to be here. I think it's well known he doesn't need to work for us, but we do need his expertise and experience. And I'm very encouraged that he has chosen to come to Fulton County and guide us through the next few years. We are in a state of transition, but I feel like it's a very positive place that we are in today. The board is working very well together. I hope you've noticed a new tone in not only our meetings, but our working relationships in general. Hopefully that is filtering down from the board level into all of the departments, into all of our employees. So I'm very, very pleased, very pleased. Do I have the honor of bringing Mr. Anderson up to welcome Dick Anderson to Fulton County, and let's hear directly from Mr. Anderson.
Well, good afternoon. I am, as the chair and the vice chair both said, I'm very pleased to be here. So I'm the one that is happier than anyone in the room to be entrusted with the leadership of this organization, the responsibility to serve our citizens, the responsibility to do it in a customer-friendly and efficient manner. So it truly is my privilege to be here. And I want to, again, thank both the chair and the vice chair, as well as the commissioner that's here, all of which interviewed me. In fact, they not only interviewed me one-on-one, they got around a round table and kept circling with questions, and there are 7 of them. So after about the 3rd trip around that table, I was convinced I was not getting this job. But in the end, fortunately, I did, and it actually was, I think, a great process that they put in place to ensure that they're acting in the best interest of the citizens of Fulton County, because that's the responsibility that they bear. Obviously, our responsibility is somewhat different than that, but quite frankly, quite similar. Ours is more operational, and that's why I want to just spend a minute this afternoon talking about. I believe that our vision should be to be the best managed county. So we have been thinking about, well, what would that mean? Because it's one thing to say that, it's another thing, obviously, to do it. I think in 3 areas we should have the aspirations and the aspirational goals that will go along with that to be first. That is, first in impact, first in service, and first in efficiency. And if you think about those 3 things, and that's really what made up what I termed from a previous life a plan on a page, meaning if you looked at just this page that we did hand out, while there's still much to do to flesh this out to a true budget operational plan that we will be held accountable for, which is a key concept, you got to get first notionally what you're trying to do. So this simple logo, if you will, that you'll see on this page, you'll see now in other venues. So we hope to use it on visits that I plan to make every Friday to our field offices and on ride-alongs. I was just talking to the chief, even with the tragedy that happened this week, which I think is the true hallmark of the police force. I'm going there on Friday because that was pre-planned, and that's what they intend to do, is just continue on with their current routine. So I'll be with the chief and her folks on Friday. And then hopefully with the fire chief perhaps the next week, and then with many of our other departments as we go through the year. And the reason is I want to understand from the employee's perspective, from the associates that I'll be working with, what do you see as the art of the possible? How would we get to first? How do we find first? How do we measure first? You know, one thing I learned, I guess, pretty early in my career is that what gets measured gets managed. So if you just think about that phrase just for a second, if you're not measuring something, it's really hard to say that you are managing it. Conversely, if you do measure something, I have found over and over and over again that organizations that do that perform at a very high level, because we have good employees in Fulton County. And I've been hugely impressed with, and I mean that very sincerely, with the folks that I have met thus far. You're friendly. You have a positive outlook. You know what you're talking about. And you put those 3 things together, Mr. Chairman, that's kind of the essential of what you start with. So I think putting then a plan that fully engages your efforts, and obviously the folks in this room, you're the leaders of the organization. So there are 5,000 plus, obviously, or so that are outside of this room. It's our responsibility, so not just mine, ours, to be able to communicate to them in an effective way. So that's why I'm going to try to make it simple, like you see on this one-page document, plan on a page. But really, from a overall perspective, there's a lot to this. Let me just hit a few of the things that we're thinking about. First of all, in terms of when we say first in these 3 areas, it's going to require some type of pragmatic strategy. And I use those 2 terms together because, you know, most times when I've heard an executive, and particularly a new executive, I couldn't even find my way down here without Rosemary once more guiding me here. So I clearly do not know what I don't know at this stage of the game. But what I do know is that a pragmatic strategy has basic components. It first starts with a clear set of priorities. And if you really think about it, and I think I was quoted somewhere maybe in the paper with this one, if everything is important, then there is no priority. There are things that we do that are more important than others. Doesn't mean that everything that we're doing shouldn't be done, but some things are absolutely essential. And the board has already set a date for a priority-orienting session. And I think that's hugely important, that first of all, they're doing it so quickly, and then secondly, we have the opportunity to bring in some world-leading perspective on governments all across the world in terms of what they're making priorities. And I've just in the few weeks or so that I've been thinking about this, there is some amazing stuff going on relative to digital government or service delivery or financial management. We're going to take those inputs and allow the board to kind of sort through what do we want this county to be in 5 years and 10 years. So it's going to be the starting point. And I think really they are the elected officials, and that's where it has to start. They have to determine on behalf of the citizens what are the priorities. Hopefully we're going to give them some broadening ideas about what those could be. Secondly, I think it will have a digital-first element. I'll just use that term because I think in today's world, and when I was interviewed by the board, we talked about notionally that when you can pull your phone out and go to Open Table and reserve a seat tonight, you can go to Fandango, and I don't know how this ever came to be, you can reserve a seat at the movie theater of all places, and it will upload to some cars and put it on your dash for GPS. So when you can do all of that, the customer expectation, the citizen expectation is hugely raised. And government's response can't be simply, well, come to our annex center on Roswell Road. It's got to be something different than that. Now, there's a lot of high-touch services. We'll never make a digital police officer, right, Chief? That's not going to happen. But there are a lot of things that we can do that take advantage of digital technology. So I think that is a second thing. The third element of a pragmatic strategy, in my view, is that we will have to be best in class in service and in efficiency. We have to demonstrate to the public that not only are we concerned about it, that we can talk about it effectively, that we're planning for good service and we're highly efficient. We've got to demonstrate it. And we'll determine how we best do that. It won't be just saying it so, we'll make it so. But there are plenty of metrics that we can put in place that can demonstrate to the public how customer-friendly and efficient we are. One of the things I brought into my office here, just as a reminder, quite frankly, about this, is a J.D. Power Award. Everybody's heard of the J.D. Power Award for many services. Well, the award itself is about a 20-pound, and please come by and take a look at it. To me, it's like the Lombardi Trophy. In other words, I have won it, and we can win the equivalent of it. So I think you'll find best-in-class service and efficient operations is critical. Two or three other things. I think to get there, we're going to have to measure things like employee satisfaction. That may be a new experience. Don't feel threatened by it. It's all about what are our people saying and what are the gaps between what they're saying and where we want them to be. Why is that important? Because we'll never have happy citizens if we don't have happy employees. That has been proven over and over and over again by every customer service organization I've been a part of. So we'll have to measure customer satisfaction in some way too. Are those new concepts? They probably are. But we can do it, and it's been done over and over again by other organizations, and those two, if you'll just trust me, do go together. Lastly, I think that the real issue, and that's why I'm so pleased that we had this session today, and it became more with the tragedy this week, not a big fall-to-raw with the press. It became more of an internal meeting. Because the real issue is not us impressing the press right now with these kinds of notions. It's about employee engagement. So any organization that is successful has engaged employees. So not only are they happy, they're engaged in what we do. And I think because of the situation this week, and as I referenced what the Fulton County's PD's approach has been, even in dealing with my visit, that is engagement. Can we get that in every single area? That may be an aspirational goal, but that is the type of engagement we should feel for delivering service in an efficient manner to our citizens. So to me, there's much more to do, obviously, to flesh this out. This directionally is where we're going with a set of things on the front. There will be councils that we'll set up for input. So if you, as a leader, want to be engaged on employee issues, service issues, efficiency, we'll have a forum and I would welcome your engagement because we're going to need the best ideas. And then there will be a set of, on the back, just pragmatic steps that we'll take quarter by quarter by quarter, that as we get to the end of the year, I think we'll be well positioned for 2016. That all said, I also just want to make, which was recognized at the board yesterday, but I want to say my own word of thanks to Sharon Whitmore. I think that she has done a phenomenal job. Both filling in, I've never seen a person be an interim and then an interim. I mean, she could be interim chair if you're not careful, because she can step in.
She lives in Cherokee County.
Because I've never, I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone that has, from outside looking in, but then listening to what the board had to say, that has just seamlessly stepped in to a difficult situation and not only kept the ship afloat, done quite well. So, Sharon, I want to, first of all, thank you as part of the employee base now and part of management. Also tell you that I don't care where you live, as long as you come to work here on a going forward basis, and I'm very much dependent on you to help do this, as you know, as well as give me some level of education in a hurry. I presented a plan to the board when they interviewed me that again, laid out kind of this along with some other details. It had the first 6 months titled Getting Grounded. I think that's become now 6 days, because 6 months is not going to be tolerated. But I will ask you in advance to give me the benefit of the doubt and give me the benefit of knowing that I'm not going to know what I don't know. It's impossible to know at this stage of the game, but I commit to earn your trust as your leader. And again, thank each of you for being here and selecting me. Thanks, sir. Good.
So Vice Chair mentioned, we know this, you know this, that we unanimously voted our support, endorsement, approval of Dick Anderson as the county manager. And so we look forward to working with you. And the unanimous support, do you think it was a good decision on our part? All right. Dick, I'm not sure if you want to take any questions. Okay. Any questions? As Dick Anderson pointed out, you're the leaders. Any questions that you may have of him, and as well as of us as a commission. And we certainly want maybe perhaps to make this one of a series of opportunities where we can be engaged with the leadership departments and hear listening sessions. And as Dick pointed out, we're going to rely a lot on you. So any questions that anyone have?
So you're planning to go out and visit with each of the departments out in the field. So if there are field personnel who would like to make sure that they get on your calendar for those visits, what should they do?
So I think what we will do, it's a good question. I think what we'll do is through Anna's efforts, we'll probably lay out a schedule across the year. And Jessica had, a whole host of things I think you saw about potential ideas. Now, I will say when I've done this before in previous life, I did get stuck one time climbing the telephone poles with a telephone company. Now that's what I don't want to do, Chief. I want to be out there amongst them, but I don't want to quite get that exposed. But that being said, I think we'll lay out a schedule across the year, because I'm going to try to dedicate, not the entire day on Friday probably, because I'm sure I'll get some other work assignments. But generally, Friday to me is a listening day. So I'm going to listen to employees. I'm sure there will be media, social media, and kind of things that we could do. But as a part of that, Sharon, I think if we lay it out, then we can say, okay, he's going to be in the water treatment plant at Johns Creek, which, by the way, I may want to get an office there since I could walk there. But it is kind of with that schedule, I believe we'll line up. If somebody wants to meet with me, they can, and I'd welcome them doing so. Does that answer?
Hello,
Yeah.
my name is Dorsha Dawkins. I'm Chief of Staff for Commissioner Arrington.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, how will you deal with a climate of fear and uncertainty with the employees because of all the change that has happened within the last 24 months?
So, to me, the way to do that is just start with the basic plan that I laid out. Anytime an organization, I was taught this many, many years ago, an organization produces exactly what it's designed to produce. So if it's producing fear and uncertainty, it's been designed to do that. And what I mean by that, things have happened, right? There's been transition at the top, and there's, I think, about a third of the employee base, maybe more than that, is right now led by folks that they themselves don't know if they are the permanent leader, they're an interim leader, or what their position is. So I think we got to move down a path of setting the priorities with the board, beginning to create expectations, naming those key leaders, which I would like to do in the first 30 days, get all of the ones that are internal that we could put into those slots, get them named, and within no longer than maybe 60 days, if we have to do a external search, get those leaders named. I believe we've got to get this plan with some real momentum behind it. So I do think we'll ask for help from external firms that have done this before, and by the way, on multiple levels: efficiency, service, digital transformations. All of those in my previous lives, I have found that they have expertise because that's all that they do, right? So we have 40 plus departments doing very wide variety of things. You can go to a firm and that their entire specialty is customer service. So they will tend to know it better than we will, but we know our operation. So it's really the marriage of that. So I think we got to get those kinds of things. And once that begins to happen, leaders are named, expectations are set, they know there's an accountability structure, and they know that help has arrived in the terms of resource and external expertise. I'm not saying all budget problems are fixed, because that's another matter. That generally is what begins to cure that issue. But like I said, we're also going to do employee surveys. So as we, operationalize how to do that, we'll find out what are the issues that are driving uncertainty, fear, or just a lack of satisfaction with being an employee here. Because that we do have to solve. Because like I said, without the engaged employee, then all of this will be, an exercise in futility.
Mr. CM, Ken Dobson, Economic Development
Yep.
Administrator. I think you have addressed a part of my questions in the latter end of your comments, but what are your feelings about collaboration, strategic alliances, and partnerships with the external community, from the business community to community-based organizations to private corporations, up and down the entire spectrum?
So the chairman and I had talked about that. Probably we've talked about previous to us ever talking about me joining Fulton County. I think it's essential that we establish strong partnerships. If you look at things that are happening now, and with the move of Mercedes here, right, to Fulton County, not to necessarily one individual city, but to this county is where these major Porsche, Mercedes, NCR are moving to. I think it's absolute, particularly in your world, it requires us to have strong partnerships with people like the Metro Chamber, the North Fulton Chamber, of course, that Commissioner Hausman is a part of. It requires us to, I think, work aggressively with state government in terms of their incentive packages, their policies, and our positioning. And I think your work, Al Nash's work now at the Development Authority, is a good, huge step forward in that direction. But I'm also hoping that as we talk about a bigger agenda, and one that, and I've thought about this for some period of time, and this is not my phrasing, it's someone else's, so I don't take credit for it, but it's public motives with private sector practices. The marriage of that is where things can really be turbocharged. So I think if we could get some of the Atlanta executive group to help us, not only point out maybe the obvious, because I think we'll know enough of the obvious and we can put together a plan, but it's really the validation. It's to say, yeah, you know what, that is the right thing to do. That is the way that you handle a customer service issue. That is the way you get efficiency in IT or efficiency in purchasing. We've talked about the possibility of somebody structuring an advisory group for the board. And so to me, that would be kind of the penultimate partnership, if you will, if we can engage the right executives that have the same heart for public service that all of these folks do that are on the board, then that to me would be very, very valuable. And I think it would help them validate hopefully the decisions that they'll be making. And by the way, this won't be, all just motherhood and apple pie. There really are tough decisions that you have to make when you go through a transition or transformation like this. It's very positive in the end, but getting from here to there, because I resonate with the question that you raised, because it will be different as we go, and we'll never have every answer to every question. It will strike some as, well, this is unsettling. And the more people that you can have around you and have around the board as well that say, hey, it is unsettling, but everybody that has ever done one of these has gone through this same exact cycle. And when you get to the other side of that, you're going to find that the benefits are enormous to the organization, the employees, and most importantly to the citizens. It's probably a longer answer, but I think these kind of partnerships and the like are hugely important.
Thank you.
Sure.
One last
I'm
question.
going to ask a quick question. Michelle McCauley, I'm with Planning and Development, Planning and Community Services. Just a quick question. Have you made a decision whether we're going to stick with a zero-based budget for this year?
Because I'll get crossways with Sharon if I answer off the cuff, I should probably say that I haven't been informed enough yet to have an opinion on that. This is what I would say. I have done budgeting for 30 something years now. It cuts both ways, right? Because on the one hand, a zero-based approach, right, implies that every single thing is under review. Well, many costs are at least semi-fixed in nature, if not fixed. And so to review them and really plow through them sometimes is more of an exercise than it is of real value. But let me say then on the other side of the equation, if you take every expense and just assume it's valid, and then you're only talking about what you add to that expense stream for the next initiative or the place that you want to get to, you can rarely get there because then you're not looking at it in a priority fashion. So what I would probably, not knowing what we've done, I'd probably say it's some combination of all of the above. I mean, I think as the board establishes priorities and we start to have then a strategy to address those priorities, step number 3 in that process is resource allocation. Resource allocation in some way implies, if not zero-based, it implies if the board says this is the number 1 priority, then this is going to be where the first dollar goes. And if this is the 100th priority, that's where the 100th dollar goes. And somewhere in between there, is going to be where some efforts will get less, some will get more. We may have things that are brand new that we've never done. So I think it's somewhat a combination driven by strategy more than a process.
Well, on behalf of my colleagues, Vice Chair Hausman and Commissioner Lee Morris, thank you, Dick, for greeting the leadership as well as our employees by way of live stream. And for those of you who are here, thank you for being here, being attentive, asking your questions. But more importantly, I'm going to thank you in advance for all the wonderful support, cooperation, and collaboration that you're going to provide to our new county manager. So let's have a great year, and thank you for being here.